This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Julia Walsh with J. Walsh Social. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, it was great to have Ariella on last week, to get to see her, to go to your BNI events, to know that she nominated you. This is what we love about this, is rather than us picking all the people that we want to speak to, as many podcasters do. I would love to do that. But I think going deeper than that is letting the people speak for us, basically. The audience nominates guests, and then the guests nominate guests. And it's just one link of referral sources after another, people coming together, trying to increase the quality of other people's lives. So I love that, and I'm very happy to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm super excited to be here, as I said. Ariella is great, and that's been just so nice, growing businesses together with other people. And like you're saying, you know, your network is only so big, and then having who she's recommended and then who I'm recommending, you're going to get a whole host of Simcoe County business people in here. And I think that's really great.
Yeah. Different personalities, different products and services. We do a lot of learning. Speaking of learning, let's learn about J. Walsh Social. So what is it you do, Julia?
I am a digital marketing social media management agency. I kind of had started out just doing social media management, and I've realized that many people need help, but a lot of people don't necessarily have the budget to invest in full monthly management. And I am just really so passionate about being able to help people get better on social. Like, my favorite thing ever is when someone is like, oh, amazing, have that like eye-opening, mind-blowing experience, that it doesn't have to be such a huge, scary process. So I kind of offer a variety of services, from like a one-off action plan. I've been working on actually, Ariella is doing my first VIP day, which is a new offering this year. She and I are working that through next week, all the way up to full monthly management for, you know, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, news, email marketing, kind of whatever it is you're doing on social, I'm here to help.
Beautiful. I may have to pick your brain a little bit about that. One of the things we do to try to maximize each one of these episodes is create one piece of content and put it into as many popular playgrounds as possible, and then leave breadcrumbs between each playground, linking the next playground to the next playground. Hopefully it's all one chain link thing. So we put this podcast out on, you know, about 20 different platforms, and then we link it through social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And maybe you can help us learn a little bit about that, because it's been a arduous process.
It's so time consuming. And that's the hard part, is when, like, you know, marketing your business isn't where you're seeing that you're making the money. You know, you're good at those other certain pieces that have to do with your business. So I find business owners often just get super bogged down and stressed out trying to be all of the things in all of the places. And I know that it just takes a really long time.
Yeah.
And then making sure it's optimized for all the right stuff, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, we do a different version of marketing for you, but that's what one of our slogans is: we're experts at what we do, so you can be an expert at what you do. If you're a real estate agent, let's take as much of that heavy lifting away so that you can get back to selling homes, rather than getting bogged down with a million different skill sets. I mean, what you do is a litany of different skill sets, all hard to anything's hard to master, but some things are just hard to learn. So you got to learn this. You got to learn training your staff, hiring your staff, getting more valuable negotiation tactics. It's a lot. So, but I like that you do that, because that's something that I don't do. And I have some questions for you later on. So
I'm on it. We can chat.
Beautiful. There's a couple of main questions that we really get into. I mean, all of them are important, but there's a few that stand out from the rest. And this is one of them, is people are so fascinating. And I look at people like a book, right? In many cases, I just look at that front cover, I make my judgment, and I move on. And I've learned that I can't read everybody's book, but to just read the cover and move on has not proved valuable to me. To at least flip through a couple pages. And really that's the why. That's their story. Like, why is their life the way it is? So we have to ask why, and kind of dig into that story, flip through a few pages. So we like to ask the guests on the show, like, what brought you to J. Walsh Social? What brought you to be an entrepreneur? What brought you to, I guess you really love social media and helping people understand it better?
I
What's the
do.
story behind it?
It's a long and winding road, like that Beatles song.
Yeah.
So I years ago worked for York University. I was worked in their planning and renovations department, did interior design. I really loved what I did. I lived in Barrie, and I commuted to Toronto every day. I had one kid, and it was a lot. Then I had a second kid, and I couldn't do it just the way it was too much. I had to leave my house by like 20 after 6 in the morning to meet my carpool to get to Toronto, and then would work my day, get home. I'm sure you've driven the 400 in rush hour, like nightmare, get home, utter chaos. And was pretty much just losing my mind. And so my husband said, why don't you just like take some time off and figure out kind of what you need because you're not happy and you're just always stressed and it was awful. So I
Mhm.
did some career coaching with a friend who had a career consulting business. And I thought, like, who needs a career coach therapist? Like, this is so silly. Anywho, turns out I did. And it was just really eye opening. Like, I really just needed the flexibility it was important to me to be home more with my kids. This was before COVID, so not everyone could work from home so easily. So I had taken a leave of absence from York, kind of explored some of what my options were, ended up leaving my job. I had been doing kind of like I just loved Instagram for personal stuff, sharing kid pictures, stories, keeping up with people like that I could never connect with. And so I kind of dove into that world full force and have now kind of been doing that and evolving with it for the past like 5.5 years.
So have you been running J Walsh Social for 5 years?
So no, it's been in one iteration or another. So that career coach friend of mine actually was like obsessed with what I was doing. So she and I joined together. We were doing like branding and social media together. We had a whole bunch of really great stuff on the go. We were teaching quarterly through Laurier and at York, and it was just so exciting. All kinds of amazing things happening, and then COVID, and then everything changed, and we were in like a weird holding pattern for a while. And just it was really stressful, which I'm sure was the same for most of us. With like, I have no idea what's happening. And she ended up getting a job post COVID. Was offered a great job in the States, working remotely. It was like exactly what she wanted, so she did that. I kind of treaded water for like a year, figuring out where I wanted to go with all of this. And then uh, I was kind of like a stay-at-home mom with a part-time job. Like I was always kind of doing more mom stuff and then trying to frantically do some work stuff. And then it was just like utter chaos. So I kind of decided to like, okay, this is it. I'm like really committing. So the past year and a half, it was like, family, this is what's up. Like I'm working my biz. I'm still like a work at home mom, but like I'm not going to always be available for all of the things. So that's sort of kind of changed. And I would say like the past year and a half, it's been like way more structured and committed and sort of with more of a plan of what I was doing. Like I was kind of taking little random jobby things here and there for different clients, but I've really tried to grow and really focus over the past year and a half on what my offerings are, what I'm doing, really solidify my brand. So it's been a so yes, I guess I've been in some iteration or other doing this for the past however many years, but more like concentrated, I would say like the past 2 years have been with more of a end place trajectory in mind as opposed to like, "Ah," much like that story just went.
That's great. No, I love those. It's the windy roads that make life more interesting. If you said to me, one day I decided I wanted to have this business, and 3 months later I had it, and everything's been perfect since then, and now I'm the most successful I've ever been. It's like I'd be happy for you, but if
You'd
you
be
look at
suspicious.
yeah, it's like whose life works that way? You look at the movie, and they start off here, and then they take a beating, and then there's the redemption part, and we all hooray. We need that a little bit in life. I think winding roads are integral to life, to making it interesting. Something that I am curious about is you had the opportunity to stop working. I mean, you stopped working, you're at home with the kids. I have no idea the financial situation, so I'm not making any judgments, but it seemed like you had the option to not go back to work. Was that the case?
Financially, no, but there was the option to not go back to what I was doing. It was just like I was stressed out. I was neither of my kids were great sleepers, which was just my cross to bear with young children. But like both of them were waking up in the night. I had to be up, be at work so early, and I just had kind of fallen into that job at York through I had gone back to school for interior design. One of my teachers worked there, and I had gone in for like an internship. It went really well, and they wanted me to stay. And so it was just sort of something I fell into. I liked it, but I was felt like I was falling apart. Like I was crying constantly, always stressed, so overwhelmed, like yelling, like my big like come to Jesus moment was my 2-year-old at the time was hugging me and I was like, get off. Like I had to like not throw her, but like my
Yeah.
husband had to pull her off me. She's crying. Because I was gonna be late for my carpool. So I'm bawled the whole way to Toronto, and I was like, "Is this how I'm gonna live the next like 30 years of my life? Like, this is insane to me. Like, my kid just needed me in the morning, and I couldn't be. It just was the whole thing. So yeah, we were financially okay for a few months for me to figure out what I was gonna do, and I didn't want to go, like work at McDonald's. I didn't want to. I love my kids, but I couldn't stay home with them just that financially, and also that wasn't what I wanted to do. I needed something more for myself, but we had that little cushion of time, which was kind of nice to sort of spend a little more time and figure out what would work. And it really was, I needed to be closer to home. And I needed to have the flexibility to work for myself because my youngest, we joked that she was patient zero, like she was sick all the time. So I would,
Sorry,
like,
I don't mean to laugh, but the way you described it. Jeez.
every cold, cough, flu, bug, stomach thing that came home, earache, everything. So she was sick a lot, and it was just so disruptive for my work or like someone had to always be home, and it was just so much. So this way, at least I had the flexibility of being okay. I can work tonight from 7 to 10 p.m. because my husband's home and he's got the kids. Like it just the 9 to 5 thing was just not working, and it didn't work for our family.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that with us. For people, I kind of want to dive back into the question about your business a little bit. So it's, at least for me, so it's really clear. So for a business, you optimize, refine their social media presence. So
Mhm.
you tell them how to do it, or is there visual creation? You help them create the post. Will you do it for them, or do you teach them how to do it?
So a bunch of this depends on budget. So like for my VIP day, that's for people that can't have someone coming in month to month. So we would come and we would really look at like your goals, who your audience is, your messaging, all of that stuff. And then I will help you make a strategy for like what you should be talking about. Because I know so many people know like I need to be on social, but they go to do it and just like have no idea what to talk about and then don't do it. And then they're like, oh yeah, 6 months ago I was going to start doing this and then haven't. Um, but I've also partnered with a local photographer. So that's one of the packages available. Like he and I will come in quarterly, monthly, whatever, get the photo content for you. I do the graphics and then we do the writing, scheduling, whatever, if that's your like ongoing monthly. The like lower tier from that is I still do the graphics and writing, but I'll be like, hey, Jeff, I need a photo of you at a local coffee shop. I need you to send me a picture of you doing this, like whatever that we deemed as part of your strategy for the month. And then I do the writing, scheduling, posting, all of that, which is it's I just want to be able to help people, which I know sounds so like I'm a helper, but I'm so passionate about it and I'm passionate about doing it right. And I
Yeah.
really want to be able to help people do it well because like so many people have such amazing businesses or such cool offerings, but they just don't talk about them or aren't comfortable enough knowing how to put that information out there.
Yeah. And yeah, I know how it sounds to want to help people, but I'm trying to remove that from my mind. Everybody that comes on the show, they all say it in some way. Helping people is just, it seems like we're pre-wired to get so much joy out of it. And my whole
Mhm.
thing about my life is feeling as good as I can. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that, but fitness makes me feel good. Learning, eating well, sleeping well makes me feel good. But that's just the personal side of it, like what I do for myself. The other side is what I do for other people. I mean, that makes, if I'm not doing that, I'm not feeling as good as I can be. My life isn't as fulfilling. So I love that a big portion of why you do what you do is to give back people time, help them stress less, provide them with good value and nice visuals, something they can be proud of and it's taken care of. So yeah, I really appreciate you clearing that up because social media, although it's been out for a little while, what does that mean? Social media anyways, does that mean just Facebook? Does that mean clubs that I go to? And what do I do on there? How often do I do it? All of these questions are uncertain for the vast majority of us. So I appreciate you clearing that up.
Thank you.
Now, outside of business, what does Julia get into for fun?
I enjoy spending a lot of time with my family. We like to go outside. We have a
Mhm.
trailer, so we do camping in the summer, which is sometimes crazy and sometimes lovely. My secret non-helpful in life superpower is I am a really fast reader and never like textbooks, only nonfiction only fiction. So I like to read a lot. My husband jokes about my nerd collection in the basement. I've got a big stack of books.
What's a favorite of your nerd collection?
Oh man, I'm like this is the super. I really like Harry Potter, and I've been trying to
I
get my
knew
kids.
that. I swear this whole time, as soon as you said nerd, I'm like, she's a Harry Potter fan. That's all that came up into my head.
I love that, and I also enjoy like sci-fi. Like I like Star Wars and all that stuff too. Not, I don't read those, but yeah. Anyway, but my husband just laughs because he will watch me read, and I'm a very fast reader, and he'll just be like, "How are you doing that?" And I'm just like,
Just totally immersed in the experience, deep.
I so enjoy it. Like, this is nothing like a good book. I also really like doing kind of crafts and things like that with my kids. And now that they're older and sleeping better, like sleeping, I enjoy sleeping when I when I can.
Because it was a struggle to say. How old are your kids now?
10 and 8. But like literally the 8-year-old just started sleeping through the night in the past year and a half. It's insane.
Wow. Okay. So this last better part of a decade, I imagine sleep has been difficult for you too then.
Yeah, but I joke that that's like, what's funny? What's your hobby? Oh, like going to bed at 9:30. So good.
Are you an early
Uh,
riser? I go to bed around the same time.
I am typically, well, I'm up by like 7 nowadays. Sometimes so everyone used to be like, "Oh, be part of the 5 a.m. club and you can work while your kids sleep." Like they could sense a disturbance in the force if as soon as I got out of bed when they were young, they would just be up. And I'm like, "Cool. Now it's 5:30. We're all awake. I'm getting no work in." And like you
Did
guys
you
are being
say they
grumpy.
could sense a disturbance in the force?
Yeah,
Not the floors, the force.
the force. Yeah. Like they would just be like, "Oh, mom's awake." And then they would just get up. It was insane.
They got that mom energy out there. Oh, okay, time to
Yeah.
tackle the world.
She's
Get
probably
over that.
lonely and wants to hang out with me. I'm like, "Oh, cool." Oh, and I guess like I really enjoy stand-up comedy. My husband and I like to used to go to the Just for Laughs festival, and
Yep.
we kind of check out stand-up wherever we are at. I really enjoy laughing.
Oh, it's just the greatest, like a drug. You got any favorite stand-up comedians that are like, well known? Just for Laughs is great, but any mainstream ones that you like?
I got him tickets to see Tom Segura at Rama, so we're gonna go do that soon. I really like Shane Gillis,
Oh, so
Bert
good.
Kreischer. Like I'll like very offside and dark humor is my
Yeah.
jam.
Can you tell me when you're going to, not so I can like follow you and stalk you, but I don't know when Tom Segura is, and I've been trying to see him. When is Rama?
May 3rd, I think. May 3rd or 5th. So early in May, but I think there's still tickets available because we were trying to hassle friends to come with us. So check it out.
Yes, I have to. Okay, I could talk to you about comedy forever. But so let's get back to you. Okay, one more thing about business, and then a little bit more personal. So, common myths or misconceptions. So many of us out there. I mean, information is what drives our life forward. If I don't know why to wear a seatbelt and I don't wear a seatbelt, that could work out very poorly for me. So now I have information, good information. Wear a seatbelt saves my life. There we go, an example for it. But when we have inaccurate information, it can really change our decision-making abilities. We have accurate information. Those two trajectories could be totally different. So what are some common myths or misconceptions about your industry, or in particular what you do, that people have out there that if you empower them with knowledge can change a fair bit? Anything come to mind?
So one big thing is like the whole like vanity metric thing. People always want, that like, ooh, the 10,000 followers, or I just want more eyes on my content, or like people really think that that translates, the more followers you have, the better, the more money you're going to make and things like that. And in some instances, yes, but in many instances, no. Like it's so much better to have a smaller engaged group of people on your content than 10,000 people that don't really care about what you're looking for, what you're selling, or what you're talking about, and won't really ever like engage and share. I recently made a funny reel with using a Taylor Swift clip, and it has something insane like 14,000 views, which is awesome. And like I could be telling all people, like this is just what you need to do is get all these views. I got 3 followers from that, and I had no conversations from that. So it's really like, these big exciting numbers or people talking about that stuff, it doesn't necessarily convert to something that's actually a helpful metric. And I really feel like the engagement piece is something that a lot of people miss on social. It's really about, like you're saying, sharing that bit of your personality. People do want to see who you are and what you have to offer, and that's the stuff that starts generating those conversations. Like I've shared nerd facts about myself or the most common recent book I've been reading. And I've been having great conversations in my DMs with people. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to want social media services. However, if they know someone that does, they can be like, I've been chatting with this really funny, friendly girl who's awesome. You should totally connect with her. Like, there's those pieces that I think people miss. And often it's not possible to show like a direct return on investment. Like, I can't promise you that you're going to spend $1,000 on your social media marketing this month and you're going to make $5,000 back on your sales. Like, it's a slower moving piece that really needs to be nurtured for a longer period of time. Like, you can't just put a whole pile of time and energy into something for 1 month and just like sit back and hope to reap the benefits. It's really more of an ongoing conversation versus just like a giant TED talk and then hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. How important is it to engage back with people who comment on your stuff on social media? So, hey, this post was great, or this podcast was great, or thanks for doing this. If people don't, if the creators of that content don't respond back, how detrimental do you think that is?
Well, you're leaving a conversation on the floor, or you're leaving, or on the table, I should say, or you're leaving like that chance to connect. Like, you have no idea who this person is. And I even find it so nice when someone writes something short back, because you realize that you've taken that time to comment and like something, and they're taking the time back to show that they appreciate it, which is really nice. One other little thing I would say is, if you are spending time trying to engage and leave comments, it's important to do something of value. You don't have to necessarily give someone your whole like super secret formula in a text comment, but instead of just being like cool and a heart, like, you can build that relationship and give someone a little piece of value to let them know like maybe why that piece was important to you or something like that. Or that thing you said about XYZ really resonated with me. That's showing that they actually paid attention, and that's a good way to kind of start a conversation with someone if that's what you're looking to do, is have that connection.
Yeah, I was taught that a little while ago, is that you listen to somebody or you read their thing, and then what resonated with you, takeaways, 1, 2, or 3, and that's just what you summarize for it. And you're just showing that what they put out there is of value to you, to the point where you read it and there was things that interested you, or there's things that you want to comment on. I learned this or that from this, and it's just that little value touch to that person. They're like, oh, they really cared about that. That was good. Maybe I'll comment again. Maybe I like this person a little more. I call them value points. We make a best friend by stacking a bunch of value and trust points over time. Sometimes very, very quickly, because everything aligns perfectly, but most of the time it takes time to do that. You have to like what they do, or have these hard conversations, trust them over time. And so that's that little value add, that little kind of trust add, that there's some connection there. I appreciate you clearing that up for us, because that's something that we pride ourselves on, is commenting back, honestly, because I learned painfully that somebody identified that for me. Like, you're not responding on anything. When I did this years ago, I thought I would just put out stuff of value and the comments don't matter, because I thought I would get bogged down in comments, and none of that was true. So that's where we are now. So outside of the fun stuff, you told us about some myths and misconceptions. You shared why you got into this. I really appreciate you sharing that windy road, but not a but. And another really important topic that we talk about on the show is our hardships. And why do we talk about it? Because I think we've just been so conditioned to share what is perfect about our life, because our failings or our challenges or the things that opportunities missed, we look at as shameful. It's embarrassing. I should have done that. I was good enough to do that. I didn't do that because I was lazy, or I didn't do that because I wasn't smart enough or wasn't good enough. Whatever the reason is, I think we've really missed the mark on that whole category of our challenges. It's one of the best parts in the movie. Like, they've been showing it to us in movies, in your Harry Potter books, and all these books behind me, sharing those hardships. It's been an integral ingredient this whole time. I just think when we talk about ourselves personally, we don't like to share it as much, because maybe it equates to, I wasn't good enough to do that thing. But I look at failure as just not quitting.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you continue on, that shows that you have grit. That shows that you have courage. These are incredibly valuable skills to me. It's this is too hard for me. I'm stopping. That's like what failure is to me, if I really want to do it and I didn't do it because I was afraid. So anyways, kind of went off on a tangent there. We talk about our hardships because I think that's where most of the growth is for a human being. You wouldn't find yourself doing a grade 1 math test over and over and over again and getting any quality out of it because you're too advanced for that. But that, grade 12 calculus is maybe that test sucks studying for. There's a lot of anxiety, but if you do it and you do it well to your abilities, you find out that you're capable enough to pass it. You get this sense of pride, and now you have these new skill sets. So we really like to go into people's hardships, trials and tribulations. Anything comes to mind where whatever you were going through probably sucked in the moment, but when you look back, you can say to yourself with confidence, I don't regret going through that. And if I went back to that same experience, I would want it to go the way it did because I enjoy myself more now because I'm a more valuable version of myself, or I've learned something, or I've grown from it. Anything come to mind that you can share with us?
I think a piece of that was sort of what I had started sharing before about changing my job. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I think I had pretty bad postpartum anxiety that got kind of stacked with the 2 kids and then just trying to manage all of the things. And really needing to take that, take that step and that time to figure out what I needed to do. But then for hardship things, like for a long time, I think I very negative. This isn't fully related to that part, but even in this part of my business, like I think I have had poor self-talk about a lot of things. Like I've told myself things that have turned out to not be true. I'm not a really good public speaker. People don't really care what I have to say. There's so many other people that share this better than I do. And so I would just sort of like kind of, I guess maybe like hide in my shell a little bit more about certain things, but because I was just afraid. And I think that's true for a lot of business owners. You're putting yourself out there, like you're talking about sharing like the good, bad, and the ugly kind of thing is sometimes people just really like that. And then over the past year, I I co-authored a book, said yes to that this time last year. And that's something I never would have done before. And it's led to a bunch of public speaking opportunities that both excited and terrified me. Joining the BNI, I was like, oh my God, I have to stand up every week and talk about my business for a minute. Like, but it's just, I've flipped the script on so many things about that made me nervous. And I've started talking about so many more things that like I had kept quiet before. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 40, and like that felt sort of shameful and weird. And then suddenly like, no, I'm just talking about all the time and like, oh, this is how my brain works. Blah. And I've learned it's an awesome superpower when harnessed correctly. And just speaking about it on my social, it has shocked me how many women are like, oh my God, me too. It's just like a whole crazy tribe of us in Barrie. So watch out, people. There's a a bunch of us business owner squirrels coming for you. But it's sharing, like you're saying, it's sharing those like scary, hard learning pieces that allow people to see you as more vulnerable and more human. And I think that's just so beautiful.
Oh yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that. Especially the self-talk. I don't know why we have this kind of butthead of a roommate up there, but all of us have it. Just this kind of shit talking roommate. I don't know if it's doing that to be like, hey, I'm kind of poking at you to get better. And I'm just thinking like, what would life look like if he or she or it was just a little nicer? Anyways, what made you make those changes? Like, why not just stay fearful and not
Because
go public speaking and not write the book?
because I wanted more for myself. I wanted more for my business. And I thought I just I want more and I can have more. And I just needed to do those things that scare you. And I think the roommate in my head is very much like, let's just stay here and snuggle under blankets and we're fine. As opposed to putting ourselves out there and having someone, say something that makes you uncomfortable. But the like feedback I've received from people from some of the talks I've done have made me, you have to put yourself out there and do that scary thing so that hopefully someone will tell you like, yeah, it was scary, but you did a good job.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to know that I can do great things and um like that it's okay to be scared even when you're grown up. Like, my daughter's was nervous to try out for a sports team. And I was like, buddy, like, the other week mommy had to go and stand up in front of all these people and talk. And I was really nervous, but the feelings that come with being nervous are the same as the feelings that come with being excited. And if you can just tell your body you're just super pumped, not terrified, it's going to be great. So it's nice that, you can always learn even as an adult. And I think that's beautiful.
Oh yeah. I mean, arguably maybe that first 6 or 7 years of my life, I probably learned quite a bit, going from useless to learning how to walk and speaking. But my adult years, no question, I've learned a lot more than I learned in my teenage years. I learned about girls and partying, and I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot else going on when I was a teenager. Maybe
Sounds
hockey.
similar to my teenage years.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we keep learning. The brain has the ability to keep learning right until the end. So I love that you did that. And I think that's a great role model for your kids, because I think fear is the main thing that stops us. We are physically capable and mentally capable, probably way beyond what I will ever push myself to. I mean, there's very few limits to us except for fear. That seems to be the big barrier in the road. So I love that you do that. Now, pivot a little bit. What is one thing you wish our listeners or whoever you're talking to out there knew about Jay Walsh Social?
Ooh. I feel like I should have had a great answer prepared for this. Just that I also am down to connect with local businesses. If you don't necessarily feel you need a social media manager, I would still love to meet you. I really want to get to know more of my business neighbors in the area. I'm always down for a coffee and a chat. I'm not very much the you have to book a crazy expensive call with me to chat, but I'm also just really happy. I love talking about social media. So if people want to ever just chat and ask some questions, I'm totally down to do that. I like giving some of my time because it's my favorite thing to talk about. And my family gets very bored when I'm like, and then this cool thing on Instagram.
Do you have a now I'm getting selfish here because social media is such a big part for us. Is there a consultation fee? Like if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm doing a lot of these things already, but there are some leaky holes in my boat. I just can't identify them. It would be great to get another set of eyes on them." Do you have a consultation fee? How does it work if someone wants to come and just pepper you with questions? If they take up 2-3 hours of your time, I hope there's some type of fee or something there.
So that seemed so I have kind of my one more basic package is a social media action plan, which is 2 calls, and then we kind of dive into all of your things, and then I give you an action plan and we kind of unpack that together. I think if someone did just want to can I buy a couple hours of your time, that would be something different that I would happily figure out, because I really enjoy that sort of thing as well. But yeah, if someone just had a question, I'm never going to be like, that'll be $300. But if we were going to spend a couple hours together and kind of try and hash something out, that's something I would happily kind of work out with someone depending on what we were looking at.
Beautiful. Okay. So for my secret weapon, my little Mr. Burns hands there.
I love that so much. I also love The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's very good. So I leave this out because I don't want people to script it. I want them, I think when we script things, again, it's what I was talking about before. It's this is the perfect version of it. We think back later, it's oh, if I could only have said it this way or that way. But often when it just stream of consciousness, it's in reality, that's often really what we meant. So I provide a little bit of context. This context to this is I think about my impact a fair bit. I have most of my rules for life on my skin so that they remind me of who I want to be. And most of these rules came from my experience combined with my mentor's wisdom. So I have great mentors in my life who have changed the trajectory of my life entirely. And one of the most significant questions that was asked to me in my early 20s or so was, she said to me, she's like, I think it would be very beneficial or prudent of you to start thinking about your impact. What has been your impact up to this day? Have there been parts of your life you regret that you wish you could redo? Have there been parts of your life that were beneficial? Reflecting on it, now you have more information to think about going forward. Think about what do you want your impact to be today? Because you may not be here tomorrow. And then if you are here, what would you like your impact to be going forward? So she basically, in a nutshell, said, think deeply about your impact. What is it you want it to be? You will have X amount of minutes remaining probably going forward. What do you want the sum of those minutes to be in the way of impact? So we like to ask our guests that come on your show, what do you want your impact to be, Julia? Whether it's family, community, work, the world, I argue that those are all one and the same. If you could look back, you could say, this is what I did. and this is why I did it. What do you think you'd want it to be?
I can see why you don't want that question scripted, but I'm like, as you're asking it, I'm like trying to put all these pieces together. I really want to raise good humans, good, strong, and maybe that seems like such a mom answer, but
No, it's a
I have
great answer.
I have 2 girls, and I want them to grow up and know that they matter, that their opinions matter. I was a huge people pleaser as a young person, and I want them to know that, you need to be a good person, don't be a jerk, but your opinion, what you want matters, and it really doesn't matter, if so and so in grade 7 was once mad at you because you said you something. Like, be who you are, and they can really do whatever they want. And I'm not that like, you're a woman and you can have everything, because 100% being a mom and a business owner is crazy hard work, but I want them to know that they can live the life they want, and I'm there to support them, but just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. You can do whatever you want. You got support. No, I'm not a parent yet, but a lot of the things I do are to kind of mold me into the father that, if I'm lucky enough to be, can be. I would not have been a good father in my 20s. I recognize that, and I had to start doing some work. Now creeping up on my 40s, not yet a dad. If I'm lucky enough to be there, if I'm lucky enough to be a dad, I want to be a certain version of a dad, because I have a great relationship with my father. He's a great role model. And I don't think there's a higher calling for a human being than to create another human being. What could be more important than that? So for mothers and fathers out there, I think it is the hardest work, most likely. I think it is the most meaningful work, most likely. I think helping raise a human compared to raising a business, I think one is more important than the other. So for you to want to raise good children, I think that has a hell of an impact on our planet. Could you imagine if every parent out there gave everything they could to raising good children, what our next generation would be like? So I think that is a very virtuous cause. And I think it's rooted in just awesome stuff. And I'm happy to hear you say that. Yeah.
Like, I love my business, but I don't think that that's going to be the impactful thing I leave behind.
It's the kids.
That's my kids. Yeah. And then I guess just I love making people laugh. I'm kind of silly, and that's, there's like fight or flight. Mine is like fun. If I ever get stressed out or panic, I'm just like start dropping really awkward jokes. But that's so like for my impact for other people, I want to leave them like with a smile, or thinking of me as someone that like made them laugh, or was a nice, happy person. And then I just want my kids to grow up and be good, strong, awesome next generation people.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's great. How can listeners find out about you, Julia, if they want to connect with you, ask you that one $300 question?
Amazing. My website is currently under construction. It should be up probably early April. So it's jwalshsocial.co. And you can find me on Instagram at jwalshsocial, or email me, julia@jwalshsocial.co. And I'm happy to chat with anybody.
Perfect. So it was .co.
.co, yes, was a foolish mistake I made a while ago, and I need to fix that at some point, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And Instagram is the main social platform to find you?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I am there a lot.
Well, Julia, it was a pleasure having you on the show, learning about your business. There's so much to this world. You've certainly enlightened me in a few ways, and I'm planning on asking a few more questions, but also really appreciate you sharing in such depth and so open your human experience. I think that's how we connect with others. It certainly brought a deeper connection from me to you, and it taught me a number of things, and I appreciate you sharing all that.
Well, thank you so much. It was lovely to get to chat with you and overshare it with your with the listeners.
I love it.
I'm teasing, but
come on the show and overshare, everybody. No, it was great.
Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.